Today we'll be locking into Firewatch, as always on the Xbox. Usually this is when I pull in a personal connection or talk about cultural osmosis, but I really know zero about this game other than that other people like it. The artwork gives off a Pacific Northwest vibe. The start menu shows what looks like a big lifeguard station, but in the mountains, so maybe it's for lost hikers, like in the Rugrats movie. See, there we go, cultural connection. Firewatch is based off the first Rugrats movie, where you play as Rangers Frank and Margaret hunting down the Reptar wagon. Obviously, I'm just kidding. Writing that joke made me realize that I'm probably watching for fires, like the game title suggests, but I thought the Pacific Northwest was really wet, so maybe I should just play the game and find out, huh? Briefly, the opening aesthetic gives me a sense of, well, openness with bird calls and expansive sky. Hazarding a guess, maybe we're looking at themes of freedom versus isolationism. Everything is pretty bright, so I'm also going to lock in a guess that this game has a hopeful tone weaved through it. The telephone lines could be a nod that no one is an island, and we all need a little bit of connection, even when living in our freedom. If I'm wrong, I'm going to sound really pompous here. The start menu lists two special features, one being a free roam that's locked until the game is complete. That's cool, but it tells me the game is going to be linear and likely lead me by the ear. This isn't a big deal, just, noting. The second is the audio tour, a DVD-style commentary by the team that runs while you play the game. I've never heard of anything like this on a video game, and it actually feels very novel to me. I also think having something like this is a commitment to a game. Not only are you selling this product, but you're so proud of it that you want to talk about it openly. This actually makes me very optimistic about this, though lends further into the linear story-driven vibe that I'm getting. We open and it's 1975 in Colorado, and I'm apparently seeing Julia, Spike Spiegel beware. I'm Henry, out with the bros, when I see her, a grad student. I'm drunk, ask her major, because it's what Shelby from Adventure Time would do.
What's your major?
She's a professor, not a student, and after a bad joke, I acquire my new 3D waifu. Now in control and not just reading text, I spin around in an elevator, enjoying the swaying arm physics.
Oh, she's 2D? Lois? Spin around.
So far the graphics don't look incredible, but the art direction is really selling that vintage elevator feel. I pick up my backpack and head out to my truck. The game talks more about my love affair with Julia and my subtle alcoholism before I'm tasked with choosing a dog, an incredibly hard choice. While both options sound great, I go with Bucket because I love dogs with stupid names. Rushing the relationship forward, we decide we want to have kids, and I vaguely propose. It should be noted that all of this story feels abstract, and honestly, I'm pretty sure Julia is dead or something, and that's why I'm hiking alone. This has all the signs of guy lost his wife and disconnects from society and realizes at the end he has to keep living. If this is the case, it feels very on the nose so far. I arrive at a hiking trail and there's a map showing Jonesy Lake, so we will be getting that Victory Royale chat. Unrelated, but I won 6 games of Fortnite today. I'm just sharing because it will never happen again. There are 4 other signs, and I feel like they're all going to come into play. A check-in reminder sign, which makes me feel like I won't. A no fireworks sign, so I'll be doing that or launching a flare gun or something. A bear warning sign, so I'll see a bear. And a trail difficulty sign, so I'll break a leg or something. I won't check in, break my leg, see a bear, shoot a flare. If I'm right, you owe me a soda. I start the trail and there's more home life choices. I really hope the whole game isn't me picking options on text screens every few feet. The graphics give everything this weird shady outline, which I don't like. After jumping off a ledge, it's sunset and everything is bathed in orange tones. As the story continues, I head to an outlook with Julia and I getting mugged. I beat the mugger and then cry about it, which I feel is crazy for the game to specifically point out. Julia gets offered a job at Harvard, and I make her fly back and forth from Connecticut, which is even more crazy. Like, do I even have a job? Why can't I just move too? And then they drop the bomb that she has early onset Alzheimer's, and I open a journal that has a drawing of me with my dong out, all within 20 seconds, which is crazy whiplash. Julia degrades, and I put her into a full-time care facility. I get dogged on for this decision, but I'm pretty sure you get dogged on for whatever you do, so it doesn't really matter. And then the dog dies, but Julia can't remember that, so whatever. At this point, I'm really hoping this is all the intro and not the whole game. The story's been dumped on me so fast I already feel disconnected from it. It's clear my choices won't ease the life of Henry in any sense, and this makes me uneasy as to how much these choices even matter. Luckily, all that text does just seem to be for the intro as I move fully into Henry's current world, where he has a job at the Watchtower. It's noted he found this job in a newspaper with no mention of his previous job, so I don't know why he couldn't move to Connecticut. I'm kinda hung up on that. I hear Henry speak for the first time, and he's very rude to Delilah, a boss of sorts who works at another tower. The two communicate over radio.
Hello, Two Forks Tower.
Hello? Whoever this is?
It's Henry, right?
Yeah.
I'm Delilah.
Yeah, that's what the guy said on the phone.
So, what's wrong with you?
Excuse me?
People take this job to get away from something. So, what's wrong?
What's wrong with you?
That's a great idea. Go ahead.
Look, I just hiked for 2 days, so I don't really follow whatever it is you're doing right now.
You take a stab at what's wrong with me.
Okay, you're probably out here because nobody back home can stand you, which, after this brief introduction, is not a big shock.
Ouch.
Given his attitude, I get why he cried after beating up a mugger. He's weirdly ornery, and the writing is very snarky, which I can see getting annoying very quickly.
Good morning, Henry. Well, I guess good afternoon. You probably slept like a rock. Anyway, there's still a few hours of daylight to get some work in. I can see you at your desk, so call me when you're ready.
I spent some time throwing the photo of Julia around for fun before being introduced to the firefinder.
Invented in 1914 by W.B.
Osborne?
You use this to spot, you guessed it, What the?
I couldn't really tell you what this does, besides the obvious, because Henry and Delilah are interrupted by fireworks in the sky. Off in the distance, the first appearance of one of our 4 signs from before lingers about, set off by randos.
Whoa, that's not legal, right?
No. You need to get down there right now and stop them. Fire danger is through the roof.
Is that really my job?
Your job is whatever I say it is.
Tasked with stopping them, though without violence, I head out. I'm still carrying the photo of Julia when I leave. I find an overgrown trail, one I'm sure will open later when I have the right tool. I move on and find the supply box Delilah instructed me to visit, putting in the mind-bending passcode of 1234. With the rope I need to reach the op secured, I keep it pushing. I have to keep throwing Julia to interact with other stuff, which is funny, but I'm determined to keep it with me, if only to make this a little less boring. Julia in hand, I set up a rope to help me down a steep slope, though I end up falling.
No!
The photo briefly appears in the cutscene, which makes my hot potato with it worth it. If I ever livestream, I'll be sure to do a speedrun of this game. Julia in hand, any percent. I find the campsite of the fireworking fiends, and it's riddled with beer cans and the stench of teenagers. I'm forced to put Julia down to pick the contraband up. I tried throwing them into the fire, and the game issues commentary about what a genius I am.
How'd you get fired and wind up in jail all on your first day, Henry? I thought it'd be a good idea to chuck some Roman candles into a smoldering fire pit.
Continuing, I find 2 sets of bras and panties. Salacious.
I found a bra.
A nudie pyromaniac. Remain professional.
Off in the distance, I can see the teens as they hang out in the lake, though barely.
You're gross. You're just some sad man out in the woods.
Dunking on the teens as a certified unk like Henry must, I throw their stuff into the water. They get heated, but nothing comes of it, and they disappear. Both Henry and Delilah are a lot more tolerable today, and while the gameplay isn't more than walking, I don't hate it.
Some of their personal property took a swim?
Ugh,
Well, I can't do anything about it now.
nope. Thanks for dealing with him, though. Seriously.
No problem.
I love you, and I miss you.
I make my way back to my watchtower, climbing through a cave. On the way back up a cliff area, I see a figure shining a light at me, but nothing happens and they run away.
Some guy out here.
Some guy? Wait, he's
It doesn't seem that dangerous. Whoa, whoa! Ah, no!
Henry!
Seriously, it's completely fine in here.
The storm approaches as I run from Jonesy Lake. Truly, this is epic. I come back to my watch station and it's trashed. My typewriter was flung outside, but I don't pick it up. I hope this prevents Henry from writing a novel. Maybe he'll be more likable.
The place is trashed.
I relay the thrashing to Delilah, who offers to report it for me, a real one. She notes anyone coming in would have checked in, and there's our second sign. The day ends.
Wake up! Hey, wake up!
I start day 2, and Delilah tells me she can't follow up on the incident because the phone lines are down. I offer to fix it, but she reminds me I lack the capacity, which is true, though it feels like it's robbing me of any agency. Still, Henry offers to survey it.
Will do.
Thanks, Hank.
It's Henry.
What, you don't like Hank?
Yeah, I don't like Hank.
But thanks rhymes with Hank.
I go back the way I came, never a favorite of mine, and track down the first telephone pole. I walk through the valley and up a hill, seeing that the line has been cut by the teens.
Hey, so the wire is definitely down out here. I just found it.
Of course, it's cut in the most unrealistic place, as if the teens would be able to cut with a large drop under it.
I knew it the moment you said you found their trash. These idiots are gonna pay. Do they realize this is how people die?
I follow beer cans to find them, talking to Delilah all the while, and find an old backpack belonging to a boy named Brian. I jack his stuff, like the kind man that I am.
Thank you, Brian Goodwin.
Wait, who?
The bag had the name Brian Goodwin sewn into the top.
Huh. Wow.
Do you know him?
Yeah, I just haven't heard that name in a few years.
What, was he a fella you had a thing with?
Yeah, it was so hot and heavy. Of course, Brian Goodwin was 12 years old, so, our love could never really be understood.
Ugh.
I'm kidding.
After talking with Delilah more and telling her about Julia's condition,
I'm actually married.
But you're here.
She's sick, and I shouldn't be here, but I am.
I'm sorry, Henry. What is it?
We'll get into it.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, you are here, and it's beautiful, and escaping isn't always something bad.
Yeah, sure.
I track the teens past the waterfall area. There's a ripped tent and torn clothes, along with a note. It blames Henry for wrecking their stuff, both at the lake and at the campsite, and notes that they've left to report him to the police. Henry becomes uneasy, as he did nothing to their campsite, and wonders what may have happened.
No, well, hey, I didn't do this. Okay, someone or something went to town here, but it wasn't me.
I like the creepy aura the game is bringing with the unknown entity wrecking stuff. I hope this continues.
It's okay. I believe you. Weird stuff happens in the woods. It could be other campers. They could be having a bad mushroom trip. We really don't know. But they're gone. There's no way to call the cops. They're not coming back. And we can get to work. I'd really like to start enjoying a quiet summer.
Yeah, me too.
Day 3 begins, but I had dropped Julia to pick up the previous note, and I was sloppy and didn't pick her back up in time before the scene ended. So yeah, she's not with me anymore, and I've lost my fun. The game makes me board up a window as I put my watch station back together post-trashing.
Hey, Henry?
Yeah.
What do you look like?
Why are you asking?
Because I'm horribly superficial.
Well, I get confused for Burt Reynolds all the time.
Oh, is that so?
Women say that we have a similar musk.
I want to know about your eyes.
Get out of here.
I'm drawing you. I need to know.
I consider this a waste of my time, though it was faster than doing it in real life, so that's something. Time skips to day 9 because nothing's going on. Delilah lets us know that the teens are reported missing, and Henry's the last person to see them.
Look, it's not gonna be an issue. If they turn up dead, then maybe.
He offers up to be questioned, but nothing more comes about it. A few days later, and he's woken up in the middle of the night.
Get out of bed and pick up the radio.
Julia calls us somehow through the radio, and it's awkward.
Hey, you big dumb idiot.
Hi, Jules.
Oh, you sound tired.
Henry acts like a prick on the radio, but I'm not surprised.
Delilah seems nice.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Bye, baby.
We jump to day 33, Henry out and about on a supply run. Delilah talks about her ex-boyfriend, confessing that in a way, she's here for the same reason as Henry.
I was with this guy. He left me. I came out here, I lied, and told my sister he f***ed a neighbor. So, I lied to you. I came out here with a broken heart just like you.
She then mentions the radio call with Julia, confirming that it was actually sleepwalking on Henry's part. This makes sense, though it didn't occur to me.
So, like, 2 weeks ago, you called me in the middle of the night? You were sleeping, I guess, and all I heard was the name Jules through the mumbles. I just thought it was so sweet. I wanted to wake you up, but then I thought maybe you were having a nice conversation and I'd just be spoiling it. I hope you're doing okay, when it comes to her.
I fully believed the game was going to let Henry act this way when his sick wife called. I have very little expectations for his development. There's an option to mess with the supply drops intended for others, but I stick to my lane and only take what's mine. On day 64, a forest fire rages in the distance. Delilah tells us that she usually names them and offers the honor to us. I chose to name it Delilah, but she protests, instead using her middle name for it, June. This makes it the June fire, happening in July, which is kind of funny, but not enough to have this much lead up. We watch as the fire rages, Henry and Delilah trading idle conversation. She reveals she talks to him more than the other lookouts, and it feels intimate. Then there's an insinuation that we get intimate on the radio. This is crazy to me. Anyone who's ever used a radio knows anybody could be listening.
What? What could we do?
Well, let me tell you.
Days later, I head back down to Jonesy Lake to go fishing, rod in hand. There's a warning from Delilah about a bear, and I'm tasked with looking for tracks. I'll count this as our bear sign, so that's 3 down. I try to fish in the lake, but it just throws the whole rod. I'm extremely disappointed. I was hyped when I got the fishing rod, and this is starting to sour me. Miffed, I go about looking for tracks like the game wants me to, instead finding a strange clipboard. Notes detailing the relationship of Henry and Delilah are on it, things that they've said over the radio, interpretations of their emotions. Panicked, Henry tells Delilah and they freak out a bit.
Someone has written down what we said to each other, have been saying.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't talk to the other lookouts as much as I talk to you, not in the same way.
No way.
Wait, hold on. Something's out here.
He then finds an abandoned radio. Suddenly, Henry gets hit on the head, and by the time he rebounds, the evidence is gone.
Henry? Are you there?
This took me off guard, and I'm excited that this game is about to get good.
What happened, Henry?
Spooked, Henry and Delilah decide that he should go explore near a fenced-off area, Wapiti Station, which was noted on the strange clipboard. Delilah can't explain what the station is or why it's there, which is weird because she's supposed to be the boss of all the Firewatch towers. I try to get past the fence, smashing rocks into the lock, but to no avail.
Look, I'm not going to be able to get into this place.
Delilah mentions there should be some firefighters in the area doing a controlled burn, which would assist me in opening the gate. They're staying at an old scout camp, which is annoying because it's on the opposite corner of the map. I swear I hear Geiger counter noises, but that could just be my imagination wanting a Fallout twist. I make my way south to the scout camp, and walking is wearing on me. It feels like it takes forever to get anywhere, and while Delilah sometimes says interesting things, sometimes she doesn't. I arrive after my long journey, go around a crumbling bridge, and find nothing, no one, beyond a note and an axe. The note mentions the mysterious station, and Henry and Delilah formulate a theory that they're being studied. They conjecture that they're subjects on the effects of loneliness, and are unhappy about this. Axe in hand, Henry chops down a suspiciously pre-chopped tree to use as a bridge back to the station. He continues chatting with Delilah, but they're interrupted by a cough from a third party on the radio. They both panic a bit, and I'm warped back to my tower. I don't understand why they're so surprised about being monitored, even if they use some kind of special government radio. Radio still travels freely in the air, though I'm no expert. The next day, Delilah pretends to be happy and unconcerned while using the radio, trying to keep information from the interloper while still communicating a plan. Henry is too dense to get this at first, which is excruciating. I am to examine a poster with a specific tree on it, which will give me the name of the location of the supply box I'm supposed to check. It's pretty simple. I followed the coded message to Cottonwood Creek, and nothing happens. See, I didn't click examine on the poster, I just used my eyes to, read it. So even though I solved the riddle correctly, it doesn't trigger because I didn't click examine on the poster. It's poor game design like this that makes me very angry. Resigned, I hike back to the watch station as surely there must be key information I'm missing. Back in the station, I call with the radio while looking at it, and it doesn't trigger. It isn't triggered until I zoom in crazy close on this tree on the poster, and then call in on the radio. Incredible. After all that, Henry's response is just,
Oh.
And I'm set off to go where I just was. I got this game via Game Pass, and I'm very glad I didn't pay for it directly. It makes me feel punished for paying attention, and that leaves me very resentful. The spaces in between the dialogue are starting to feel very empty, so even though the plot is moving, the walking simulator aspect is really beginning to wear me down. I make it back to the creek, finding the cache. Inside is a new radio, and I swap them out. I'd actually assumed the items would be hidden in the river, as Delilah had mentioned doing so with her whiskey before, but I was wrong. I feel like this would have been more interesting, though. Now that they can communicate privately, Delilah and Henry are emboldened.
Look, I'm headed back to the gate, and now that I've got an axe, we'll know something soon.
Still armed with the axe, he goes to break into the research station. There's a strange noise on the way back, and Delilah scolds us for reporting it over the radio, suspicious that it's being used to track our location. Breaking into the fence section, Henry gets stung by a bee.
Ow!
We continue down the path to find expensive communication equipment. They freak over how legit the setup is, and we go inside the tent. There we find earthquake tracking equipment and maps Henry believes are related to the routes he walks.
Got a map here that confirms they're tracking our people's movements.
There's also the wave receiver, which we cop, used to track signals.
I think I found the thing they used to track us.
Holy shit.
You swear a lot.
With it, we find a black box and detailed reports on Henry and Delilah. These reports list qualities and susceptibility, among other things.
What is it?
There's a folder of reports here.
What do they say?
They're assessments about the two of us. There's stuff in here about Julia.
Like what?
Stuff I didn't tell you. This is...
What does it say about me? You said there was one about me.
And it looks like they've been following me around. What I do when I'm out hiking?
Henry, do you hear me?
It says that you and your boyfriend are still together.
What? We're not. They're messing with us.
Yeah, okay.
They are. How do they even know who he is? How the... I'm so sick of letting these people do this to us. We should just burn the place down.
Scared, Delilah suggests burning down the forest, and this feels like a crazy escalation. I choose to talk her down. This makes me suspicious of her in a way. If you were worried about a conspiracy of some kind, why would your first instinct be to burn down all the evidence?
Now I'm thinking, what if you're right?
I just don't think we should do anything that we can't undo.
Well, maybe it's not the best idea.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best idea.
I'm so wound up.
Paranoid, Henry begins to walk back, and the bridge collapses behind us, barring us from returning.
Whoa! Oh. Delilah, there's smoke coming from the site.
That's okay, because the place burns down right after, for some reason.
What happened to it's definitely not the best idea.
It wasn't me.
Nothing says my choice matters like choosing to not burn a place down and then having it burned down anyway. I tell Delilah to call the fire in, and day 77 starts. Henry tapes an index card to the window that says who is listening to us for some reason. This is obviously meant to show his mental decay, but if people keep breaking into your house, you're not going to leave stuff like that around. While chatting with Delilah, the wave of the receiver beeps. We follow it, leading nearby to an alarmed backpack, where we find a set of keys. Those keys open a door leading further into the cave we visited on day 1, and were stated to have been missing for a few years. I don't know where you would get an alarm like that out here, unless it's like a bear warning alarm or something. Keys in hand, Delilah reports a man in our tower, mistaking it as you.
Well, you're back in your tower. Maybe you need a drink too.
I'm not in my tower.
I am looking at a man standing in your lookout. And it's not you?
It is not me.
Oh my god, go.
It was noted previously that while she can see you when you're in your station, she can't see much detail. Be as convinced by that as you wish to be. It becomes clear the alarm was meant to alert the mysterious person of your location so they could enter your station without conflict. After running back, we find a whole cassette player with headphones taped to the door, which is very thoughtful. An audio plays, one that's cut to suggest Delilah and Henry started the fire.
Just burn the place down. The grass is dry here. It would go up in a second.
This would have been avoided had she not suggested burning the place down, because again, I don't know why she did that. It should also be noted the audio was not captured via radio, but from close physical proximity. Thus, the setter of the fire is framing them. Delilah freaks out about this.
Dee, just don't freak out, okay? Don't freak out.
Oh my god, what the f*** is happening, Henry?
And day 78 starts. At the start of day 78, Delilah reports that somebody posing as Henry called her supervisors. The message relayed is that Delilah knows how the fire was started and that she needs to be interrogated. This obviously leads to more paranoia from her.
So, I just got off the horn with that lookout who's wondering what I know, or that I'm an arsonist, or that I'm f***ing losing it. Furthermore, I bet you don't have the only tape of us from last night, so someone has evidence to back it up. We need to find out what someone's been keeping in that cave.
I'm going down there now.
Resolved to get to the bottom of whatever is happening, Henry goes to explore the locked section of the cave, armed with the key.
Hey, you didn't actually make that call, right? To the other lookout? It just stuck in my craw. I let myself imagine how it would be if you'd been lying to me. But now that I asked, I kind of just wish I hadn't.
Of course I didn't. No way. They're trying to pit us against each other.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not gonna happen, though.
Thanks, Henry.
After passing through the door, someone immediately locks us in, showing that Henry has no spatial awareness.
Delilah, someone locked me in the cave. Is this thing working? Delilah, send someone to the cave, please!
Henry is dismayed about
Jesus,
this and
this
must
is a
find a
big
way
cave.
out. The door, however, is just an iron rod fence door. Henry could stick his hand through the very large gaps and unlock it from the outside. He still has the key. I don't see the issue. Regardless of Henry's IQ, we found a secret way out, knocking down some rubble with our axe and slipping through it. This brings us to open air, where we report the misfortune of being locked into Delilah, who doesn't really seem to care all that much.
Hey, are you there?
Yeah, what is it? What did you find?
Nothing yet, because someone tried to trap me in there.
So you didn't find anything?
The path forward leads to Brian's fort, a kid Delilah knew, and the owner of the stray backpack we found previously. Delilah has spoken on him a few times by this point in the game. He was the son of the previous Firewatcher, and while he wasn't supposed to be there, she turned a blind eye to it for his benefit. Her rationale is that his father wasn't the best, and being here was a better life than he would have gotten anywhere else. Any mention of him throughout the game is curtailed by her guilt over not reporting his presence. Given the way she speaks about him, it's very obvious that he is dead. Though, who knows, right? My initial predictions for the plot were dead wrong, as dead as Brian probably is. Luckily, Brian's fort had just the climbing equipment Henry needed to explore the mystery cave further. We loop back around, which is annoying and unnecessary, and go back through the door that we got trapped by. Using the stake looted from Brian's place, we descend down into the cave's depths. After walking along a pretty well-lit cave, we find Brian's corpse just vibing there. So yeah, I was right. I'm counting this as my fourth and final sign for the signboard, the one warning about inexperienced people on trails. Yeah. We leave his corpse, the game actually makes us step over it, though you can't step on it. I tried. And we keep going, circling up and out of the cave. Sorry, Brian. There's a cool shot on the way up where you can look down on him. Sorry, Brian. Again in open air, I have no idea how this is supposed to tie into the conspiracy or really anything at all. I thought something else was going to come after the body, like it was a side revelation, and now here's the big one. But the big one never came. Delilah takes the news hard when we radio in for search and rescue, blaming herself.
There's a body in the cave. It's Brian Goodwin.
Gotta be f***ing kidding me. How does that... What? I don't... He'd be alive if I had told someone he was out here. I don't know where he'd be, but I can assure you it would not be rotting at the bottom of that cave. There's nothing to say. Hike back. I think we're leaving tomorrow anyway.
The scene ends and day 79 begins. Wildfire has now engulfed the area, looking like the tri-state area in June 2023. But now, I guess aptly named June Fire and the one that destroyed the Mystery Station have merged into one big fire. This forces everybody to evacuate due to danger. While packing up, the wave detector goes off and Henry follows it, keeping Delilah in the loop. We walk around in the haze, oh, that's a familiar sentiment, until we find a rope up with another tape. We listen to the tape as we climb, and the voice of Ned, Brian's dad, speaks to us.
Yeah, hi, Henry. Yeah, you better find this before it burns up. We've been causing each other a lot of headaches.
In the audio, Ned explains that he's been living out in the woods for 3 years and was spooked by Henry being near the cave during the initial run-in on day 1. This spooking is why Ned has been running a pseudo-organizational espionage-based harassment campaign against him. Makes vague sense, though his limited resourcing comes into question. Ned then explains that Brian died while he was teaching him to climb. Brian didn't sink an anchor properly and fell to his death. I'm sure the message is relating to the strange things grief does to us, but this whole thing feels very Scooby-Doo villain. We relay this to Delilah, who insistently thinks that Ned murdered Brian.
He's gone. He's deeper into the Shoshone. He doesn't want anyone to know he's out here.
Because he killed Brian. Because he killed his fucking son.
Henry believes Ned's story, and yeah, this is very unsatisfying. I explore Ned's hideout briefly, taking papers for the sake of it. I didn't think much of Delilah's stories about Brian, which is why I didn't really mention any of the conversations about him. I assumed it was just to make Delilah guilty, so she could connect with Henry, who feels guilty over his wife. Finding out Brian is the crux of this story is very lame. Climax seemingly reached, I make my way through the fog towards the helicopters, missing the first one. I tell Delilah to leave without me, and she does. I actually took forever because I went back to the blown-up station in the northwest instead of the way out to the northeast. And you can't just go east in this game, you have to go back south and then walk east along a river and then go north. It's very tedious. After getting where I need to be, I cross the canyon in a cart. This would have been a cool scene to show off a raging fire down below or something more high stakes, but it never happens, quickly fading to black. I end up at Delilah's watchtower and I go in her outhouse for fun. Inside her watch station, I steal the drawing she made of me earlier and I use the radio. We talk while I wait for the helicopter.
I'm back at the staging area near the trailhead. I think I see your truck.
Red, Colorado plates.
Yeah. It's a piece of...
I invite Delilah down to Boulder with me when she asks for direction in her life, but she just offers to come by sometime. This feels very weak when it was her suggestion that I tell her what to do with her life.
You don't want me down there.
Well, I just asked you.
She tells me that I need to go back to Julia and to keep writing, and it feels very predictable. Henry gives the classic,
You don't know what it's like.
when it comes to seeing Julia, proving he is still insufferable and unchanged. Seriously, if he wouldn't go to Connecticut, he's not going to Australia. Henry gets on the helicopter out, and the game is over. The credits play while showing off all the photos I took during gameplay. Most of my photos are of toilet paper and Henry's crotch. This moves into a horrible photo of Henry's face and then photos of Brian and his dad. I forgot I stole a dead kid's camera. My bad. Now that we've left the park behind us in a smoky haze, let's talk gameplay. There really isn't any. It's mostly a walking simulator, sometimes a rope climbing simulator, sometimes a property destruction simulator. But yeah, it's a walking simulator, and you walk, Delilah talks, you respond, inspect object. There isn't much here. No QuickTime events, fight scenes, or puzzles. At most there's locks, but you're given the very simple code in the beginning. The only fun thing you can do is throw things, and Henry's been skipping the gym because they don't go far. You can't look at the map and run, which, while realistic, comes at the expense of the player. You can't even really look at it while walking. The trails are overly marked in some areas and undermarked in others. It's weird that Henry can climb up steep cliffs, but can't jump on command. Again, I'm extremely disappointed by the lack of fishing. A game like this with nothing mechanically could have benefited greatly from fishing, even if it was a simple 2-click mechanic. Henry could have had a small notebook with entries for 10 different kinds of fish, and if you complete it, you leave it in a Dropbox for the local ecologist and get an Achievo. Bam. This wouldn't have even been far-fetched. Delilah talks about ecologists working in the area already. Any kind of journaling would have been interesting, honestly. Sketches of wildlife, writing poems when interacting with the cliffside. Anything. There's no mark you can make with Henry. The choices are front-loaded into the beginning of the game to customize Henry's backstory, and I can't really explain why they're needed. Regardless of what you pick, nothing changes. Julia still ends up sick, still living with her family in Australia. The plot plays out the same. It's a mechanic meant to give an illusion of control where there is none. And this leads us to our discussion on the plot. This game was so short that I won't retread it, but it doesn't make any sense. Ned is our driving force behind all the events happening, acting with no reason. He lives in the woods, eloped after the death of his son, accident or not. He's afraid of Henry finding the body, so he leads him directly to the body. Ned makes Henry and Delilah think people are doing research on them to start a fire himself. And then he burns the place down, fleeing deeper into the park. Ned's actions are responsible for all the events that happen, but they have no logical string. I'm sure some will be quick to point out that Ned is grieving or mentally ill or some other excuse, but I don't think that explains the Scooby-Doo levels of scheme, especially in something trying to paint itself as realistic. That's the major issue. The game struggles for realism, looking for strength and emotional resonance to cover for the lack of gameplay, only there's no sense in it, so you can't resonate. From 5 minutes in, I felt the game was trying to throw sad situations at me as a form of emotional manipulation. The game needs you to be emotionally empathetic to the characters to misdirect you from its flaws. If you're sad that Julia got Alzheimer's, you won't care that your choices are irrelevant. If you're sad Brian died, you won't care that his dad's plot makes no sense. If you resonate with the loneliness Delilah and Henry are trying to combat, you won't care that they sound more like Reddit threads than actual people. If this game wanted to peel away from the realism, it should have leaned into the conspiracy of being a specimen. That plot point was the most fun the game was, and the big reveal when Henry finds the reports on himself and Delilah are a highlight. I really felt like the game was going somewhere, which makes the ending all the more disgraceful. I was very optimistic for this game when I saw the commentary option, but I think I've been duped. At first I was glad the plot wasn't going the way I predicted, but now I wish it had. I would have taken Hatchet or Into the Wild over a series of illogical events. I know exploring the commentary might change my opinion in some way, but honestly, I don't want to spend any more time on this game. Moving on to the aesthetics, the illustrated promotional art for this game is very nice, and it captures that Western feel. Seriously, they did a good job with that. In-game though, the more I played, the uglier I found everything. I don't think the stylization lends to the environment, and while at first I didn't really notice it at all, it becomes very apparent. Even the way Henry's hands are bothers me. His fingers are blocky and weird. The assets remind me more of a mobile game, and I don't know if that's because this is an indie game. I can't place it. A lot of the times the game slaps a sunset filter over everything and acts like this is groundbreaking beauty. Like, yeah, sunsets are pretty, but this isn't gonna carry you forever. Near the end of the game, when the fire smog takes over, I was second guessing myself, unsure if it was just the normal sunset filter or what. The drawn art in-game, frankly, is very much not my style. I find it ugly, it feels like it dates the game, it's very 2014 art blogger, which makes sense for a game published in 2016, but still, that's the danger of using current style. Looking at art for reference during this, I saw a lot of articles praising the art direction for this game. I don't know if that's because I'm looking at this like a decade later or if it's just me, but the praise seems very overblown. Shaded Minecraft looks a lot more impressive than this does. Onto the music. The music was fine in that I didn't notice it most of the time, so it wasn't intrusive. When I did notice it, it felt appropriate for that western hiking vibe. It's smooth and it reminds me of lo-fi, which is always a plus. I think Chris Remo did a great job building tension on necessary tracks without throwing away the sonic identity. The two brief dissenters from this identity are infiltration and exfiltration, which have a synth DNA. This corresponds with visiting the mysterious scientific station, so it's appropriate and it works well. I actually really like both of these tracks. They lend this almost X-Files feel to the game for that section, and it's definitely a strength. Overall, I would rate Firewatch a 3 out of 10. It's a game with a hollow mind and a face that's only pretty at first glance. It uses rushed emotional manipulation to cover for a failed storyline, and it uses that failed storyline to cover for the gameplay loop that's pressing forward on the joystick. Nothing I did mattered, which is fine. Not all books need to be choose your own adventure, but don't try to make me think it is in the first chapter. Looking at the Xbox achievement data, 50% of players got the achievement for playing through the first day. There's a 12% drop off for beating day 2, so 38%, and a 9% drop off for beating day 79, or 29%. So compared to Gollum, this game retains people well. Really well, actually, for a game where you walk forward. I find it strange to be so at odds with my perception of general consensus. I picked this game up because I swore people loved it, even though I didn't know anyone who did. And looking up anything for this game, you see that love. Praise for the visuals, praise for the characters, a multi-release vinyl pressing, filled in wikis. The game has real devoted coverage. It has fan theories and fan art, fan fiction. Okay, not a lot of fan fiction, but some. I did read one chosen at random because I wanted to say here that the fan fiction was written better than the game was, but it wasn't, which is funny. Point being, the game does connect with people, and the people who made it are proud of it, as evidenced by the commentary. So maybe it really just is something I'm missing. But from where I stand, the only thing this game has going for it is that it's playable. As always, only you can prevent wildfires, and I'll see you next time.